short story What We Talk About When We Talk About Love, written by Raymond Carver in 1982. First of all, I will talk about the narration and composition. The story is written with a first person narrator, told from the character's Nick's point of view, and therefore you must remember that the short story is Nick's version of the situation, and the narrator cannot be considered completely reliable. But this text is mostly based on dialogue, and we can therefore assume that it's the truth, or at least that Nick is objective. Furthermore, the short story is written chronologically, but the short story only extends over a relatively short time span, approximately from late afternoon to some point of the evening. The story takes place in a kitchen in Albuquerque, where the four characters are sitting around a kitchen table, drinking gin while having a discussion about love. And the language is very simple, with few adjectives and characterized by a lot of dialogue. We don't get informative descriptions of the four persons' characters, but we must form our own impressions of them by what they say or don't say and their actions. Now I'll start out with the characterizations of the four characters. First of all, there's Nick. He's the main character because he's the narrator of the short story. He doesn't say that much, only joins the conversation 4 times throughout the story. He's newlywed to Laura, who's a legal secretary and who he met in professional capacity. And therefore he might be a lawyer. Nick is very observant of the gin bottle and the sunlight in the kitchen, but I'll come back to that later. Then we have Mel Ginnens. He's a cardiologist, which is a heart doctor or surgeon, and this gives him an authority in the conversation about love, or at least Nick thinks so, by saying, "My friend Mel McGinnens was talking. Mel McGinnens is a cardiologist, and sometimes that gives him the right. By that he shows that Mel is someone who you respect, or at least he does." But as we get deeper into the story, we get the impression that Mel has this dark side. At first, he seems like a very lovable person who shows his affection for his wife. Terry actually says that Mel always have love in his mind. But when Mel gets drunker, he gets frustrated and tells about his ex-wife and the trouble he has had with her. He explains how his ex-wife is allergic to bees and how he sometimes wished to let a colonies of bees into her house so she would die of her allergy. Then he does this. Bzzz, Mel said, turning them into bees and buzzing them at Terry's throat. Then he let his hands drop all the way to his side. Of course, Mel does this because of his hatred to his ex-wife, but it seems strange that he takes this out on Terry, which could indicate that he also has some kind of hatred or aggression to Terry, or at least that there must be some seriously anger deep inside him. This hatred could originate from his anxiety of getting hurt. He is a heart surgeon after all and works every day trying as hard as he can to save people. So he must be used to seeing people getting hurt, both those who has heart complication or their relatives. But anyway, he explains how he wishes he was born as a knight because of the following reason. But what I liked about knights, beside the ladies, was that they had a suit of armor, and they couldn't get hurt very easy. No cars in those days, no drunk teenager to tear into your ass. This could mean that Mel himself has been hurt, for example, by his ex-wife. This has done some seriously damage to him deep inside, and he therefore has a rather violent behavior, which is shown when he gets more and more drunk. Then we have Terry, who is married to Mel, and she's the only one who Nick is giving a description of. He says she was a bone-thin woman with a pretty face, dark eyes, and brown hair that hung down her back. She liked necklaces made of turquoise and long pendant earrings. Because she's the only one Nick chooses to given description of could indicate that he's very fascinated by her. He's describing her as a pretty woman and has taken the time to notice some of her characteristics. Early in the story, we learn that Terry has had a violent relationship with her ex-boyfriend Ed. She has a discussion with Mel whether Ed could have loved her even though he hurt her physically. Terry claims he did, but Mel tells her to shut up, and then Nick describes her reaction. Terry looked at us, then back at Mel. She seemed anxious, or maybe that's too strong a word. She doesn't defend herself after Mel saying shut up. And maybe Nick is wrong when he says that anxious is too strong a word, because she is anxious because she once have maybe she is anxious because she once have experienced this violent relationship and therefore have no interest in having it again, or still have the fear that she tricks her partner, which will make him, which in this case is Mel, hurt her again. Then there's Laura. She's Nick's girlfriend. She doesn't say that much either, only has a short comment when the occasion calls for it. It's very remarkable that Nick doesn't describe Laura that much, but has most of his focus on Mel and Terry. As a reader, you're actually left with the feeling that Laura isn't that important in Nick's life, though they have been together in 1.5 years. Then we have one of the themes in the text, which is the relationships and different kinds of love. First we have Terry and Ed's relationship. Ed loved her so much he wanted to hurt himself and her. He ended up killing himself, though Terry insists that there was love between them and Ed truly loved her. Mel disagrees with this and swears that it couldn't be called love and isn't the kind of love he wants. He does say he loves Terry, but admits if she dies he will move on and find a new love. And the love that he shares with her and did with his ex-wife is a physical love, a day-to-day caring love, and can therefore easily disappear again, like he has experienced with his ex-wife. Then we have Nick and Laura's love. Laura claims she and Nick knows what love is for them, and she hints that Nick should throw in a comment, but he does this instead of an answer. For an answer, I took Laura's hand and raised it to my lips. I made a big production out of it, kissing her hand. We are lucky. It is clear that they do like each other and enjoy one another's company, but compared to the love especially Terry refers to, it doesn't seem that strong. The love is very physical, and they show each other a lot of affections by touching each other a lot, but Nick actually doesn't mention anything about loving Laura throughout the story, and he only thinks that she's easy to be with. This of course doesn't mean that he don't have any love for her at all. I earlier mentioned that Nick is very observant of the sun and the jinn. These are both symbols describing the development of that discussion. First of all, there's the drinking. Nick, Mel, and Terry and Laura all consume huge amounts of alcohol during their discussion about the nature of love, and their increasing intoxication could mirror their growing confusion about love and inability to find it. But in the end, Mel says, "Listen," Mel said, "let's finish this fucking gin. There's about enough left here for one shooter all around. Then let's go eat." It's like they have to finish this drink before they can be set free from the conversation. Then there's the sun. The sun in this story represents clarity. It's bright in the beginning of the conversation when they still can have a meaningful conversation. But as the sun disappears, they get more and more drunk and confused about the conversation. And in the end of the conversation, when it has died all out, they sit silent around the table and the room turns completely dark. Then there is the theme about language cannot describe love. Although the four friends talk for a while about love, the fact that they never manage to define it suggests that language can't describe emotional abstract subjects like love. Mel does this. Mel does the most talking, but he fails to prove his point in his stories, and rambles about love and tries to like explain it, but don't really succeed. Which shows that he has trouble expressing his thoughts, feelings, and emotion about the subject love, and it's really hard for him in general. Terry speaks a great deal about her former love, Ed, but when Mel challenges her, she turns to intuition to prove her point. She believes that Ed loved her no matter what, Mel or the other things, but and demonstrating that her gut feelings about love can be more powerful and accurate than words. Lara and Nick, meanwhile, say very little about the nature of love and instead rely on physical gestures to clarify what language cannot. They hold hands, blush, and touch each other's legs. A message from Carver therefore could be that he indicates that words simply aren't enough when talking about love, which the four friends realize at the end of their discussion, and that is probably why they have fallen silent by the end of the story. The four persons at the kitchen table are together trying to define what love is, but they don't succeed. Even though Nick doesn't contribute that much to the conversation, he explained in the end, when the conversation has died out, I could hear everyone's heart. This could indicate that he might be the one with most insight in love. Then we have the genre. Carver is an author inspired by Hemingway's minimalistic style, but the genre is sturdy realism. He's known to write slices of life instead of his stories to revolving around a certain plot. It's a slice of people's everyday life, which this story is a great example of. It has no certain plot, but it's just a conversation between four ordinary people, a conversation sliced from their everyday life, if you can say that. And that was it.